Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bluhdhaven podcast, episode number 67. As always, I'm your host, Balfour Wong. Today, I'm joined with...
Buddy.
So starting with the announcements, as always, you guys can pick up the new bottle opener up in the Bluhdhaven store right now by going to bluhdhaven.com/store. The bottle opener itself is one piece of steel. The handle itself depicts 5 6-sided dice. And it is, I'm not gonna lie, probably the most satisfying bottle opener I've ever used. It's like, it's just so smooth. So go check it out. Make sure to go to the store to go check out our shirts as well. Is there any other announcements?
Not that I know of. Not that you told me.
Oh, also don't forget to check out our Monday Munchkin Mondays stream. We streamed last night and it was insane.
Chaotic.
For those who don't know, the game of Munchkin is essentially a cooperative, competitive type of game. The whole goal is to try to get to level 10. And with our stream, if you donate 500 bits, you can cause absolute chaos by making someone give up their cards, by making someone give up their loadout. It was wild. And last night got a little crazy. So if you guys haven't yet, make sure to go check out our stream on Mondays. Other than that, let's just jump right into the podcast.
Right.
So this past week, B and I started watching Warrior.
Oh, yeah, I heard you guys talk about that.
Yeah, so it's on HBO Max right now. But the concept of the show is based on the writings of Bruce Lee. His daughter, I think her name is Shannon Lee, is the executive producer on the show. And I guess this was like what his true vision was for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, they took some liberties with the concept and stuff, but it's really good. The concept is it's in the late 1800s in San Francisco. And it's all about the Chinese immigrants living in San Francisco. And you have like the Irish Americans who are pissed off that all these Chinese are coming in and taking their jobs.
It's so ironic.
It's wild. It is a very good show. It has 2 seasons. People are hoping for a 3rd season now that it got picked up by HBO Max. But the story is really good. It's hard to watch sometimes just because of the subject matter.
Oh,
there's a lot of racism in it. But it's one of the few shows that actually depicts. It's one of the few shows that actually depicts vaguely what Chinese immigrants had to deal with when they first immigrated here in the thousands. So everyone should definitely watch that show. It's freaking good. The fighting choreography is like next level. I always criticize a lot of movies and shows for having like 20 million cuts in the middle of a fight scene.
Oh, God.
And this is a show where like they cut, like their cuts matter for momentum of a scene. So what I mean by that is like you don't see someone like throw a punch and then it immediately cuts to them being hit to them then cutting again to like a different fight.
Yeah.
You see the full movement of contact with each hit and it's powerful. The only time that they really cut is like say I'm coming forward and punching you and like the camera angle is like right over here, right? It'll show me punching you and then it'll cut to a wide shot where you see the momentum of the person being hit, being thrown into something.
Oh, so it'd be kind of like how the Bruce Lee movies were filmed in a way.
Yes. So the fighting choreographer and the cinematographer wanted to do this like marriage of Bruce Lee films and Jackie Chan films. So the way that they were interpreting it is they wanted the fights themselves to be very much like Bruce Lee. Like Bruce Lee had a very unique fighting style by taking from different types of martial arts.
Very boisterous.
Yeah. So, and you can see that in the main character. So like with the fight scenes with him, it's very much like, it's very fluid.
Okay.
But with the like scenery, like the props that they use in a fight scene is very Jackie Chan. Like jumping on a table, sliding through a table, like that very
thinking something's gonna break and try to go for it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's so good. Like the fighting sequences are amazing. The writing is very solid. Like there's a couple of things that kind of piss me off, but overall the story is really good. The one thing I don't like though is when, like, I'm not even talking just about Warrior. I don't like when a character has, what's it called? Is it character armor? Is that what it's called?
Plot armor.
Plot armor.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because there's something in the show. I'll kind of go over it without really giving anything away. But there is a character in the show that is on the opposing side, and he probably is a good fighter. Well, no, I don't want to say that. He is a burly man. Like, he's just a big dude.
Yeah.
Not necessarily good at fighting, but like if he punched you, it would probably hurt.
Oh, yeah.
But the other people that he's fighting against all the time are very skilled fighters that are typically beating the shit out of everybody else with this character. But for some reason, he never gets his ass kicked. Because he's a main character. Which is weird because the opposing side's main character gets his ass kicked a lot. So it's like, I don't understand. Yeah, like, I don't understand why. Because even narratively, the way that they put him in situations where he should get his ass kicked.
Yeah.
Like, because they've already established a bunch of other stuff with the different characters. But because he is a specific character, he never gets touched. And that kind of drives me up the wall. Because it's like, well, everything else is very grounded in terms of characterization and the reason why characters' motivations are what they are. But then with this character, he's just kind of everywhere, but nothing happens. So I'm not sure if it's like I'm not sure if they're trying to force that narrative or something, but it's just the one thing that I personally don't like it. But definitely go check it out because the show is really good. I think there's a total of 20 episodes. And I'm really hoping for a season 3 because they left it in such a good position for new stories to be told.
I'm sure they will.
Well, we'll see, because originally it was on Cinemax, and they canceled it because Cinemax was originally doing like TV shows, but they decided to just cancel all of their TV shows. Like, they're only focusing on original movie content. So now that HBO Max has it, a lot of people are really hoping that, you know, they can get something from it.
Pretty sure they would.
But what shows have you been watching lately?
Oh boy, what was the last thing I watched? Started rewatching, I should say, Z Nation. I realized how kind of stupid that show was.
How is that?
I mean, it's okay. I mean, the whole thing of like, once the apocalypse hits, they were like doing testing on convicts for a vaccine of some sort. And the last convict that got that thing, he didn't turn, and he got bit like 6 times.
Holy crap!
Yeah, and so the entire thing is like he has to be taken to a facility.
Oh, because he's not patient 0, but he's
technically patient.
Well,
0.
yeah, technically patient 0 for the cure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the entire thing for at least the first 2 seasons was like trying to get him to this facility. And then once they get him there, they realize it's just shit, obviously. And
because it's a post-apocalyptic scenario.
And this dude, I will say, the patient 0, the motherfucker's selfish as shit. It's great.
Like, I mean, it makes sense because he's a convicted felon,
convicted
right?
felon.
Like,
yeah. He just doesn't want to be there. He's like, I just want to go home. I want to just chill, but I can't because you fucks are making me do this. Like,
see, that to me is good characterization.
Yeah.
When you're putting a character, because you have this preconceived notion he's a felon, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of testing on these felons who are either up for death row or whatever makes sense because it's like, all right, we're essentially using them as guinea pigs.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have that like morality thing that sits in where you're just like, how is this really right? And then you see how he has to deal with something he didn't even sign up for. Yeah. That's crazy. That's actually really cool. I like that idea.
And throughout the entire series, you see him decay. because he's still turning into a zombie, but he's just doing it slowly.
Oh, so he's not like super immune.
No, he's not. You can see him like in season 2, roughly. You see him start to get pale and start to see the wounds he has are getting more infected.
That's kind of cool.
And the last thing I remember watching was after the whole. No, it's too much. A big old thing happens in one of the seasons towards the end. They think everything is all fine and dandy, and then all of a sudden they see him like, "Hey, I'm here. I just don't want to talk about what happened." And now he can control them.
Interesting.
He can control the zombies to an extent. Like they show him like raiding a superstore for clothes.
Oh, geez.
He's like, "Yeah, these will fit."
He's like, "Yeah, whatever."
And he sees like 3 of them staring at him. He's like, "Oh shit!" He starts moving like, and they start mirroring his movements.
Oh.
And then he's just like, "Go over there." And they go that way. It's like, I'm God.
That's interesting. I'm kind of bummed because I think it was like right before The Walking Dead came out.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that was my, like, I was done with zombies right before The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Just because like there were so many zombie movies and like zombie interpretations where it just completely turned me off.
Yeah.
And one of my things that my personal opinion with zombies is I don't like the fast zombies.
Oh, I could see that.
Like I personally like the slow super soldier zombies
because it's more suspenseful. It's more like, especially in close quarters. It's like, I'm gonna do this. Click. Fuck. Yeah.
And like I get the like super fast zombies. Like if you get scratched, you're done. I get that, but I personally like an idea where, it's not necessarily if they scratch you, you're dead. Like they actually have to like
numb
eat
you
parts of you in order for you to turn, which to me is far scarier than getting cut. Because I mean, like if you get cut, you can make the argument like, all right, chop off a limb, right? Like that's been a thing in a lot of zombie stories where someone just cuts off where they got bit.
Yeah.
Like I want more of that. Give me more stuff like that.
World War Z kind of did that at one point when one IDF
wasn't that in the novel they were different?
I think
because I think that was one of the biggest gripes that a lot of people have was that the zombies were different.
I mean, they were still fast, and it still infected you in under 10 seconds. So I mean,
yeah, I know that's fair.
And so that's why I was just like, when you mentioned the whole limbs, it reminds you of like one of them gets infected. Brad Pitt's like, idea, flunk. Ah! I thought that was just so funny.
Makes sense though.
No, it does. It's just like, idea, act fast. Well, but the only movie I ever liked that incorporated the fast moving zombies was Dawn of the Dead, the 2000 remake.
Yeah, I like Dawn of the Dead. My thing I think is like as long as the context makes sense.
Yeah, if it's just to make them fast, no, it's unnecessary.
Yeah, but like if there's a reason why they're fast, it would make more sense to me because like the thing with like zombie movies too is like there's always like a pandemic, right? There's always like a disease that's like going out.
That's always how it starts, or it's some sort of like biomechanical military thing that goes awry.
Right. So if you're pushing that like science fiction narrative, then there still needs to be like an underlying
context,
science to it.
Yeah.
Like
even if it's pseudoscience, man. Look at Star Trek.
So like if you're saying like it's a parasite that takes over your brain and then which like that will control the body and limbs, like okay, I could get behind that. But if it's a disease itself where it goes through your bloodstream, I don't understand the rationale of going like, okay, like it takes over your entire body. Like that's one thing. But if it's something that's controlling the actual neurosystem, then that makes sense to me because then they like the whatever is attached to your brain has that consciousness of going like, oh, speed, as opposed to it being in like your blood and going like and it just moving because it's in your bloodstream.
It's like 28 Days Later.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Where they did that pretty well, but they didn't say it was a zombie virus. It's more of like it was something that just turns you into a rage induced animal.
Which I like that even better because it's like zombie is such a wide term, but again, it's going back to the science part of it.
Yeah.
Where they're just saying, oh no, they're just mad individuals.
Yeah, they're just literally, they go into a fury, and any sort of like, any bit of blood that goes any part of your system, or like the one good scene was like the one guy just how happens to look up and just gets in his eye. It's like, oh, he's fucked. Like that works.
Yeah, and it also works narratively too. Like as a good story, that works because you're keeping the tension there. The audience like knows like the repercussions, and it is established in a smart way. For me, I just think that is a more creative way. I'm not saying that either way is like the perfect way, but I feel like, you know, like the Walking Dead zombies, I feel like that's lazy.
Yeah,
like I just feel like saying if you get hit, you're done, but not giving an actual reason. Because even throughout the series, like they're still trying to figure out what's going on, you know?
In the first season, they were just like, I think it was the first one or second one after they leave the medical facility.
Oh, after Rick?
Where they like use the grenade to open the fucking doors before the facility shut down.
Yeah.
Like they even tried to explain, like, you know, it doesn't. Unless you have severe trauma to the head, you're still gonna turn. That was it. But they never truly explained it.
Yeah, and that's what kind of bugs me. Like, we've talked about this before. I get why The Walking Dead is such a successful show, but I think as a writer and as someone, you know, who aims to make good stories, you can establish world building without your characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's one thing to establish your characters, you know, give them motivation as to the reason why they're living in this area, but you need to give me a real reason for me to care.
Oh yeah.
And like for the show, I did not care about any character. Like,
I think I don't want to care for it with Negan.
I really?
Yeah, that's the one I really liked. Because he didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
He was just like, you want to fuck with me, I'll fuck with you back, and just bash your head in. Oh, sorry.
I am like, because for me, like, I watched 5 seasons of it.
Ugh.
So like, you know, I try to watch shows that I don't like. That way I have an actual opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like these shows, I feel only right in the way that is like sweeping you out of the rug, like sweeping the rug out of you, like purposely writing for them to be like, oh, we got you, audience. You didn't know what was coming.
Me and all the people that read the fucking graphic novels, like, yeah, I expected this, just not this far late.
There was a lot. Well, there was a lot that they changed too.
Oh yeah.
I'm just saying that baby should have died. Actually, I was talking to my uncle about this. Like,
he's not wrong though. In
narratives, I truly wish people killed kids more because it like that is such a traumatic experience for a parent.
Yeah.
And so for those who don't know, I think it's in like season 3 or 4. Is it 4? It's, you know, have you guys seen that like Carl meme? It's that episode.
Oh, that one.
That baby was supposed to die.
Yeah.
Rick's baby, that
entire
whole thing, that baby should have been dead. Because that baby gets crushed by her after she gets shot in the head. And I was very upset that they kept that baby alive. Because having that child death would have been far more detrimental to Rick.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's one thing for his wife to die, which you saw his grieving process for. But if his wife and his child were to die, his character, like him going through that recovery period, would have been far different.
Or like maybe he gets the like a male version of postpartum depression because that technically is not his kid.
Yes, which he didn't know.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing too.
Yeah, it was like it was not necessarily his kid. If he would have found out, like say during his grieving process, someone's like, "Yeah, no, Shane was fucking her when you were in your coma." They could have made it narratively to an extent. He could have killed the child because it's not his.
Yeah, and I think that's my problem with those TV shows is that when you have a very strong narrative that you're adapting from, I understand that you have to take some things away. But if you have those characters in the narrative already, I don't understand why you wouldn't have that impactful scene. Because in the comics, it was a huge deal.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, as a television show, I'm not sure if it was, like, a censorship type of thing where it's, like, you can't see kids being killed or whatever, but...
Even in movies, they don't even do that often.
Yeah, and it's, like, I want there to be that impact. Because it's, like, it's one thing to have a scene where, yes, a child gets saved. Like, that's a thing that happens all the time. In every medium. Like, you see a child just standing there in a crisis because it's a stupid kid, so an adult has to come and sweep them up out of their feet before a column falls on their head. Mm-hmm. Well, how about you have it where a hero is actually trying to save the child, but doesn't get there in time, and then crushes the kid? Like, just thinking as a person, that would fucking traumatize you.
Yeah.
It would be wild to see that. So, I'm looking at all you scriptwriters, like, be bold, take steps, like, if you're going to create a story, make it impactful.
Even the only times you ever truly see, like, kids die, at least from what I've seen mostly, what it has to do with, like, Holocaust films or something that has to do along those lines. Like, that's when you'll, like, see either kids hanged or shot.
Well, it's weird too, because it's like you have all those classic horror films. They were all teenagers.
Yeah, well, so what's the difference? Really, by a few fucking years, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like deaths should matter, and I truly do feel like child deaths matter.
Oh, yeah, they do.
So, I will always preach that. If you guys... Once we come back with Tales of Yoibos, there's actually going to be a lot of different storylines kind of revolving around children. And primarily our goal with our stories is to try to tell stories that aren't, depicted in media. Like... truly talking about characters that are dealing with trauma, characters that are dealing with being put in a situation that they don't want to be in.
Like our vampire campaign.
Exactly. Like Vampire the Masquerade. Like the whole idea behind that is dealing, with drug abuse, dealing with
domestic abuse,
domestic violence, dealing, with, a character that you're playing, there is rape involved with these stories. And it's, about how these characters deal with, these situations, or, how these characters pretend like something like that never happened.
I almost want to specify this too. I play a hard ass, but he's also a fucking man whore.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I did not expect this to happen. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. And then...
But no, I mean, and that's kind of the point that we wanted to drive is like, we want those stories to be told because we think it's very important to be told. And there's a lot of movies that depict it, but I feel like they only tell a part of the story, because movies only have a certain runtime. A lot of modern movies now are 2 hours long, but with our long form content, we can really dive deep into those stories and really linger on it and really focus on, the how to overcome this, or, having the character succumb to it. And that's, I think, kind of what our goal is in terms of our storytelling. Which is why I try to find as many interesting stories as possible. Which is why I just recently started watching Invincible. It's based off of a comic book that came out in 2007, I want to say. But it's a Amazon Prime exclusive. Give me a second. It's essentially the concept of the story is you have like this Superman like figure. He's super strong. He's from a different planet, and he has a child. And his son, by the age of, I think he's 17 or 18, finally just starts developing powers. So his dad is like, "Oh, okay, cool. I can now start training you into this." And like the world like loves his dad. Like he is like the Superman of this universe. But there is a very big twist, which I'm not going to say because it is in the first episode at the very end. There is an event that happens where the audience now understands that it's not what we perceive this character to be as. But every other character still has that image of them. So as an audience, you're like, what is the motivation to this character? But you know, they don't shy away from brutal murder in this. Like, it's a superhero cartoon, but it's very much like R-rated, very graphic.
Is it like in a comic book style, like
Yes.
animation? And
Yes.
like, there's one thing where like, you know, he sees his parents like fly somewhere. And he's like on the ground. And he like puts his fist up in the air like he's gonna fly, but he doesn't. So he's just like, and then just walks to school or whatever.
I think so. I think there's a scene like that. It might be that. I think that might be the second episode.
Okay. Does the father sound like
It's played by what's his face?
I just think of Jonah.
Yeah, it's him.
It's him. Oh, it's okay. I am
What the
thinking of the
hell's
right
his
thing. Fuck if I know. I want to say J.K. Simmons.
Yeah, J.K. Simmons. It is J.K. Simmons. He plays his dad. Dude, it's really, really fucking good.
Okay. I saw like previews of it when I scrolled through TikTok.
It's that.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it. It's a weekly show. I think they have 5 episodes right now, but it's really good because they, like I said, they do not shy away from death. Like the younger superhero is like, he's really trying to figure out how to be a superhero in this world, and like he keeps fucking up. Like, he's like running through buildings, running through walls, destroying cars on accident while trying to save someone. And like his dad's telling him, like, you can't do this. Like, you need to be aware of what's happening around you. And like, even when he's trying to save someone, you know, that person gets shot or gets ripped in half while he's trying to carry her away. And it's like, it's super, super graphic, but it's so good because it kind of tells that like darker side of superheroes, which I really love. And if I'm not mistaken, the creator of this comic was one of the co-creators of The Walking Dead.
Oh, shit.
So that's why the comic book is so damn good, because they kind of have that like story building that they did in the comics. So definitely go check that out. Definitely check out the comic books. There's a ton of comics, and the story is super vast. So if you guys want to get like ahead of the show, you guys should definitely go check them out. And if not, you know, it's going to be weekly on Amazon Prime, and it's so good. The voice acting is really great too. Actually, what's his face from The Walking Dead is the kid, Glenn.
Oh shit! Okay, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Give me a second. I'll look it up right now.
I don't want to say anything that sounds like it's bad if I get it wrong.
Steven Yeun.
Steven Yeun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So definitely go check that out. Right now we are currently working on, or I'm currently working on a project which hopefully will be released at the beginning of next month. So if you guys are a fan of comic books, a fan of DC Comics, we are kind of going to be going over a lot of the original issues from these characters. So like kind of like the original Justice League members. We're going through the Holy Trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, as well as the Flash, the original Green Lantern, and a couple other stuff. So if you guys are comic book fans, keep an eye out for that. I'm very, very excited to do this. Is there anything else? Like, is there any, like, did you watch Kong versus Godzilla yet?
No, I have not yet. I'm trying to watch it with a group of buddies.
So
go ahead. I mean, I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I wanted to like it more than I did.
Yeah, I heard you're like, it's still too focused on the human characters when it's supposed to focus on the monsters.
Yeah, like the monster fights, the fighting sequences are fucking awesome. Like, they are...
You can tell where the budget went.
God, dude, they're so fucking good. Because it's like, the fighting feels weighty.
Okay.
Like when they're hitting
you can feel
a building, even though they're going straight through it, you can feel like this giant thing just coming down. I think one of the best things that they did, I don't know who directed it, but whoever directed it, they had a great idea from shooting from the ground up. Like, you can kind of get the scale of how stupidly big these things are. And it's just every single fight, it just, like, the punches felt like they mattered. And, you know, to their credit, I will say that there's probably the most monster-on-monster action out of the past few films. But the characters just did not make sense.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't make sense to put them in the situation that they were. Because even narratively, as an audience, it didn't provide information to you. Like, there's like this whole conspiracy subplot that's going on, which leads to a reveal at the very end. But you didn't need any of those characters. Like, I personally feel like they could have cut like 40 minutes of this film. Because
all this was like humor interaction.
Yeah, it was just stupid, like, sitting down or like being like, well, I believe this. Well, I believe this. Well, you're wrong. I'm going to prove you wrong. And they don't even prove, like, the subplot itself didn't even have a actual conclusion. It was like, I'm going to go do this.
Was there after credits?
Don't believe so.
Because I know that King of Monsters did, and that's what, people were kind of like, ooh.
Well, yeah, because they were setting up this.
Yeah, because I thought maybe Kong versus Godzilla.
I don't believe so because of the way that it ended.
Okay.
I did not see. Actually, let me look it up right now because
it would be. Because I'm pretty sure. Because I know that they started with Skull Island giving out after credits scenes to show like.
Yeah, because they showed Mothra.
Yeah.
At the end of that one.
Because they show all the cave depictions of Mothra, Godzilla, and Ghidorah. Spoilers, because it's after credits. Who fucking cares? Half the time, if you sit in through a Marvel film to watch after credits, I'm pretty sure you should know this by now.
No, there are no after credits scenes for it, which makes sense because again, like,
I was just making sure
the way that it ends,
it works, quote unquote.
Yeah, like it's kind of weird because going back and watching the classic ones. Even though the production value is vastly different, they're entertaining as fuck. Like, they're just fun to watch. Like, they're fun to see just two monsters, like, beating the shit out of each other. Two titans, if you will.
Yeah. Did you ever see, like, the behind the scenes of, like, the people who are, like, in the suits and the animatronics for the old Godzilla films?
Oh, yeah.
They're having so much fun with it, and it's great.
It's because it's, like... I mean, it's essentially like Power Rangers.
Yeah,
it's that same concept where it's like they shoot it at a slower frame rate. That way, you have this like feel of things hitting, and having that like scale. But like they were fun movies to make, and I feel like the fighting sequences were the fun. I feel like everything else was just kind of thrown in as fluff.
Yeah. That makes sense.
One of the things I hated about the movie is that there's a character who shouldn't be there. Like, even from like a logical standpoint, like this character should not be in any of the scenes that are happening right now. Because you're talking about like military operation.
Yeah.
You're talking military personnel.
You got the civilian.
You have this civilian. What the fuck is she doing there? Every step of the way she's there, and it makes no narrative sense. Other than two scenes. For the span of 2 hours. It just, I don't know, it really bugged me because, I try to suspend my disbelief while I'm watching movies. Because that's kind of the idea, right? Like, you're going into a different world, and you're just kind of like letting it go. But don't throw in security clearance. Don't throw in yada yada. Like, don't throw in specific rules.
Classified information.
Yeah, don't break them immediately because then that takes me out of the moment.
Yeah.
And then when you focus on the character that's breaking shit, like breaking your own rules, I then get pulled away from the movie entirely because I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why is she there? I will say she because this. I'm really annoyed by that. If you can't tell.
No, I can't actually.
But goddamn, the fighting sequences. I gotta say, the fighting, like with Kong and Zilla, it's so fucking good. And honestly, I think that's the reason to watch it. Like, I personally think, even though the narrative sucks, I think the fighting sequences are totally worth it because it's a visual spectacle. I mean, there are molecules everywhere when they're fighting. It is so and like the lighting on them is really good. Like, even though they're a CG character, they look really good. And I think that's just kudos to the CGI department. But yeah, go watch Kong, or go watch Godzilla vs. Kong. You can watch it on HBO Max right now.
Mm.
We're very TV and movie heavy today.
Yeah.
So I'm going to recommend another show. No, I'm not going to recommend another show. Go watch Space Jam, because there's going to be a new one coming out soon, and I'm actually super excited for it. It's LeBron James, right? Who's going to be?
It's LeBron James.
Yeah, Space Jam Legacy. They have an official website. Let's go check it out. It's coming out in July 16th.
That's interesting.
And I mean, it's cool because it looks like they are. Like, I know a lot of people who saw the trailer are pissed off because they're like, this is just another Ready Player One, blah 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 blah. But like, why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of liked Ready Player One. Even though there's some bad things on it, I still liked it.
I liked it better than the book.
That's fair. And that's ironic to hear, because everyone's always like, the book is always better. And then you're just like, but I like the movie better.
Yeah, like, well, because I think the movie did a good job with conveying the overall story without, like, the annoying stuff that's in the books. So, like, you know that whole part with The Shining?
Oh, okay.
So, like, for those who watched the movie, you know how it plans out. But in the book, he's supposed to, like, reenact it, like, scene by scene, in order for him to get the key.
No.
And, like, I think the way that they did it was better because it flowed better.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you know, it's a thing where you have to realize that the movie medium of storytelling is different than the book, because, like, pacing is also a big issue with the way a story can be perceived. Like, for me, that's the reason why I hated Game of Thrones, is because, like, the pacing of the show matched the pacing of the book, and I fucking hated that. Because as a show, if you're lingering on stuff for too long, you're going to lose my interest like that. That's why I'm happy that I watched it, like, I binged it, because if I had to wait every single week, I would have fallen off the train so fast.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because pacing is a big thing. Like, you want to make sure that your story is paced decently. I'm not saying, like, for every story there needs to be, you know, a certain speed for it, but there is a point where your pacing is too slow, and that's Game of Thrones for me. Like, the pacing for it is too damn slow, which is why I know a lot of people didn't like season 6 or 7. I actually preferred that, because they took away the like travel time. They took away, like, people were going from one place to another vastly, like, super quick in comparison to the other seasons. But I'm fine with that, because why do I want to have 3 episodes of someone traveling down the road to interact with characters that won't matter? Like, it might in a narrative book sense, you know, because, you know, you want to keep them engaged. But as a show, you don't want that filler. That's why for, like, a lot of animes, I fucking fell off so fast, because there's so many goddamn filler episodes.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Naruto. One Piece.
I
love One Piece, but holy shit.
That's why they have a thing where, like, they have movies that just have the full episodes in them. So it just works better, but it's still fillers, man.
Yeah, and, you know, I get it, too, from a production standpoint, that you want to keep your audience engaged, so you have to create these stories that don't inadvertently affect the overall story. But, you know, I just think as a storyteller, like, I would much rather... I'm not sure about you, because I consume media differently.
Yeah.
But I think for me, personally, I would much rather wait for the story to finish as opposed to throwing in stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, if it has no overall effect whatsoever, even from a character development standpoint, then why am I going to waste my time with that?
Yeah.
You know, it kind of goes back to me, this kind of goes back to the whole, like, killing the kids type of thing, where it's like, if you're going to tell a story or do something, make sure it matters. Like, make sure their interaction with this world impacts them in some type of way. Whether it's like, they get an item from this character, which they then use, like, 2 episodes later down the line. Or it saves their life further down the line.
Even Star Wars had no problem killing kids.
Exactly! That was a great scene. It was memorable. Everyone's always like, holy shit. Anakin beat the shit and killed so many younglings.
Even in the show, they did not have no issue like killing a few Jedi Padawans.
Mm-hmm. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't be afraid. Like, if Star Wars can do it, come on, writers.
Come on.
Like, I get that people, in terms of screenplays, there is like a certain cliches that you want to hit.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like we live at that point where it's like we need to push that boundary of storytelling. Like before movies were made, people went to theaters to talk about operas. Operas are fucking tragic as shit, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you guys have actually seen like an actual opera, like a opera that was written in Italian and performed, but that writing is fucking dark. A lot of the time, it's like this woman was taken from her husband and like almost beaten to death just for her to try to redeem herself, and during her redemption, dies in a blaze of glory. Like, there's no, it's romanticized, but like that's the way we used to tell stories back then. And I feel like now, like modernly, like people are kind of pulling their punches with the narrative. Where I feel like we need more of that. We need more like
we don't want to get canceled. We don't want anything to show negative. I was like, just fucking push the envelope already.
Well, we talked about it last week though. It's where it's like I think it's important to
convey.
Well, like the context of what you're writing is very important.
Yeah.
A good example is people love Blazing Saddles, right? Blazing Saddles is a good movie.
Racist as fuck.
But if it was made today,
that would not fly.
It would be horrible.
Oh my god.
So that's why I'm saying the context matters.
It does. No, it does.
Because the way that movie was written at the time makes sense. So when you watch it, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable, but because of its era, you're like, okay, this makes sense. So, like for me, when I watch that movie, it's like, how can we convey a similar story today? Well, okay, we can convey that, yes, it's a comedy, right? Because it is a comedy. It has very dry humor. But with the modern audience, you might not want to put the dry humor on there. Maybe you want to do like an Adam Sandler twist on it where it's very over the top, right? Yeah. Where it's over the top, but you still understand the context of the reason why people are talking the way they are. Like establishing 1855, right? And then like immediately panning to the verbiage of that era, right? Because it's vastly different. But I think it's important for a timepiece to kind of stick to its guns with that. Mm-hmm. So, I'm going to have another criticism with Seth MacFarlane's, was it Once Upon a Time in the West? No.
A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
That had it was a timepiece, but a modern comedy.
Yeah.
And I don't think that works. Because I did not like that movie.
When it came to the explanations of like dying, okay, fine.
Sure.
But everything else, no, you could have been bad with it. You could have been bad with it.
And I mean, for me, like, having because modern comedy is so different to try to put into a period piece.
Yeah.
Because you're being politically correct in a time that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because even with the Magnificent Six, Adam Sandler's time period?
Oh, yeah.
Like, yes, that movie is not great, but it's a comedy, but it makes sense for its era. Like, they still were able to write for what they were putting the theme as.
Yeah.
And that's why I say context matters for so much, because, sure, you can make a modern, a in this era drama, about racism, but it needs to make sense. Like what was it? Was it Moonlight? The movie?
Which one?
Where that guy goes to like his girlfriend. Yeah, Moonlight. Like this, where like it's a society of like people.
Oh yeah.
Like in this city, like because it's a small town and everyone is like in on this. That's the context that matters. Where it's like you can do this as long as you establish why the people around them are talking the way that they are. Because if you're doing, a modern story, then everyone's going to pick up on verbiage, and, they're not going to be okay with someone spewing slurs and stuff like that. But if you isolate for a specific story, then it makes sense. So that's why I'm saying, like, context
matters
for what you're writing really, really matters. I'm very preachy, but whatever. That's the way that I think.
Preaching to the masses.
Hell yeah, man. I think I'm gonna watch Magnificent Six again, or what is it? Yeah,
The Adam Sandler comedy.
yeah, because that one's it's so stupid. It's so good. I know people hate Adam Sandler, but like
He had some good films, honestly. Even when, like, in his comedic career, he had a few good ones. Like, I like Click, Bedtime Stories.
yeah, Wedding Singer's good.
Wedding
Big Daddy,
Singers, Big Daddy. Oh my god.
Little Nicky's a little weird, but I like it. The Waterboy.
Waterboy. What's the one? Grown Ups.
I finally watched Grown Ups too.
I didn't want to watch the sex sequel.
That was weird.
It didn't look good.
It was weird.
Then even in what was it, Uncut Gems that he did with, like, his, like, more serious role.
that
was
was
fucking great.
A wild ride.
Oh boy.
That was a movie where I wasn't expecting what to watch. Like,
Yeah.
I went in, like, because I saw, like, the previews and stuff, like, and I saw that there's a bunch of basketball players and whatever. And I was like, okay, this looks interesting. Like, I don't know what it is. But, like, as I was watching it, I was like, I was captivated all the way through. Like, it's a movie where I was, like, on the edge of my seat. And I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. And, like, I think that was very surprising for me. Because typically in a movie, like, there are beats to a story. And, like, you can tell where a story is going. But this one, I was like, I don't know what's happened. Like, I think it was just because, like, I guess a lot of stories kind of focus around a character where you can relate to. And, like, for him, I couldn't relate whatsoever. So I was, like, just captivated by watching the character. Which is interesting to me because, like I said, that's never happened to me before. So, like, I was just like, wow, that's wild. Like, all the way through. It's just like, you don't know what's going to happen, and shit happens, and you're like, what? But yeah, like, I mean, Adam Sandler is he's a good actor. Like, I don't really, The Ridiculous Six, that's what it's called.
Ridiculous Six.
I don't get why people, like, bash on him so much. Like, this dude has had a crazy ass career. Like,
yeah.
He was on the Cosby Show.
Oh god.
That was his first credited role.
Oh wow.
So he's been in the industry since '87.
God damn.
And he's coming out with a new movie called Hustle.
Oh. Interesting.
Like, I guess with that, like, with every movie that an actor's in, it's like a hit and miss, right? Like, yeah, with every successful movie you're gonna have, of course you're gonna have a flop.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at Nicolas Cage. Like, I know people hate on Nicolas Cage, but I think he's a good actor. I mean, like, he like, I think actors get bad reps a lot because I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like, why an actor is acting a certain way.
Yeah.
So, like, for those who don't understand, like quick movie 101 here. As an actor, you are going in portraying a character, but your director is directing how that character is portrayed. So, like, say you want to have a very, like, say Nicolas Cage comes in and, like, sees this character and, like, he's playing a drunken, metal worker or whatever, and he comes in and, like, he's very pissed off, or, like, he's very much like Nicolas Cage, right? Very over the top, very, like, Rah! What do you mean? But the director then sits down and says, hey, like, maybe that was a little too much. Let's tone it down. Let's try to go, like, 10 layers lower than that. Try to be a little more subdued. Then you're going to get Nicolas Cage, who is very much monotoned, right? Mm-hmm. Because the director is saying, that's too much. Bring it down. Let's see how this scene acts with you being toned down.
I'm going to go steal the Declaration of Independence. Kind of that shit.
So then, depending on how well the director likes that, then the actor needs to go, okay, the director liked this version of the character. Let us focus and tune into that. So, a lot of times when people are pissed off about an actor in a film, don't necessarily be mad at them because there's so many moving parts to a film. Like there are so many things that make a film.
Yeah.
So typically when I criticize a movie, like I do criticize the director a lot because they're
the meat and potatoes.
They're the president.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of production.
Mm-hmm.
Not the overall production, because then you have the CEOs of whoever's
but
funding it,
just...
but like they are the runner for how the movie itself is operated. And like who then he chooses for second unit director, and stuff like that. So I always pin a lot of stuff on the director. But then I always go like, God, this editing was horrible. Then I'll be like, God, that editor, like, yeesh.
Yeah.
There's a couple of movies where I've seen where I'm like, fuck, like if the editing was better, like this movie would have been great. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of going over like the actor thing. So it's like, if you guys have a problem with an actor, like just kind of think more than just the actor. Like think about everything else. Because typically, like if the actor's portrayed poorly, then you can probably point out really bad camera work. You can probably point out really bad scripting. You can point out bad editing. Like there's a whole heap of a lot of stuff. Actually, we can talk about the comparison between Joss Whedon and Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think that's a very good example of what I'm talking about here. Like, people hated the Joss Whedon version of Justice League, but when the Zack Snyder version came out, people are loving it. And that constitutes to a directorial style. When the first Justice League came out, it was much brighter. Like the color grade was much different. Like the feeling of the scenes were different. The feelings of the characters were different.
And Zack Snyder's was more like grainy, so to speak.
Yeah, I think because like Zack Snyder has a very, I want to say like more of a metal look to it.
Okay.
Like it's very like, yeah, there's grays, but there's still color to the scene. It's just more metallic. It feels grounded in a sense, like because he has a specific style. But it also constitutes to the way that he wanted the CGI characters to look. Steppenwolf looks drastically different in both pieces, and that alone really changes the way that you perceive the villain. Like the size of the villain. In Joss Whedon's, he's very much like a very lean character, where like he's kind of just swinging a hammer around, and sure, you can kind of perceive like a threat from him, but in Zack Snyder's version, Steppenwolf is a fucking monolith. Like he's a giant monster with armor on. So when he's moving and like slamming into stuff, you feel that weight of the character. And that is talking just strictly about the way the two directors viewed the story. Mm-hmm. You also have Joss Whedon, who went and redid a ton of different scenes and changed the narrative to fit his vision of it. But people hated it because it wasn't like a cohesive story. Like he came in halfway and changed a lot of stuff for I don't know what reason. But then you have Zack, who kind of came back with the original vision and really showcased what someone can do narratively if they are allowed to do it. I think that's why the Zack Snyder, like the Snyder cut, is really important to me, because the original Justice League is 2 hours. Not that long of a movie. Like, it's very basic. The Zack Snyder version is 4 hours long. Yes, it looks crazy, but how many D&D shows do you listen to?
That's true. That is true.
How many,
that is true.
Vampire the Masquerade episodes do you listen to?
That honestly, that is true. It's just...
To me, it's proof that the long-form storytelling is here to stay. Because people loved the 4 hour. Like, as long as you have breaks in between, which Zack Snyder did, it's broken up into 6 different parts, so you can like pause it, come back to it later. The long form storytelling is perfect. It's so good because you get to, I don't want to say linger, but you get to spend time with characters. You get to spend time with the story developing further. You keep that intrigue of going, oh my god, where is this going next? For our D&D sessions, typically when we end a session, we end it in an area where the characters want to come back. It's never like, hey, you guys beat the person? All right, we're going to come back next week. No, it's typically like you guys killed something and you guys discovered a scroll. You guys discovered a hidden thing behind a portrait.
And that's where we ended. It's like, fuck!
Yeah, it's like building that tension and leaving it to where people are interested and want to come back. And I feel like that's definitely what Zack Snyder's version did. Was even with a 4-hour concluded story, there were pieces that were left for the audience to go, I want more. And I think that is the best storytelling. Even with a fully enclosed story, you want to make sure that there's still more because it's a real world. You know, like in the real world, there's always going to be something lingering or something for you to question or to come back to and be like, hold on, like, what happened to this person? Where did their story go? And I just think that's just really good, you know, and that's why it's interesting because you don't really have a movie that was released that was then redone and then re-released. Like, I think it's just, as a creator myself, I think it's such a cool thing to analyze between the two films. Like, you can really tell a lot of how much direction can really change a film, how much the screenplay changes the film, like even color grading itself, like how that really changes the way someone perceives the overall narrative. So hopefully, one day I would love to make a movie one day. But if you guys haven't, you guys should definitely go check out Zack Snyder's Justice League, because it's so good. It's a really fun ride, especially if you're a huge DC fan. But we're coming up on the time right now, so I know we've been recommending a lot of TV and movies, but is there anything else that you would like to recommend our audiences?
That is a good question. Here's a good one. Watch Spaceballs.
Hell yeah.
Watch that. And then do the whole thing of like watch it for that time period and then think about, would that fly in modern? I can tell you right now, it wouldn't fucking fly. But just watch it so you could just see the difference of like, oh Jesus.
No, I agree, because Mel Brooks
pushes the envelope.
Yeah, I think Mel Brooks is a fantastic writer.
He is.
And like you were saying, you can definitely tell that it was written for a different time.
Mm-hmm.
But with that in mind, it's still fun. So definitely check out Spaceballs. That's one of my favorite comedies. It's so fucking good.
If you like John Candy, Rick Moranis, and a few other people, You're gonna fucking love this movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. I guess my recommendation would be to go to HBO Max. If you don't have HBO Max, get the free trial and go watch all of the old school Godzilla movies. They have a ton of the Godzilla films on there. And it's just fun.
I think my favorite is Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla.
I still like Mecha Godzilla.
That's fair.
I think that one's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, but I like Space Godzilla just because of the fact it was great.
Yeah, so go check those out. Don't forget to go to Bluhdhaven.com/store to get your hands on the new bottle opener that we have in stock. There is a limited supply for our first run, so make sure to get them while you can. Don't forget to order a t-shirt as well, and we'll be back next week for another episode. See ya!